Here's some cool history that you did not learn in school. Pirates World was a 100-acre theme park in southern Florida that existed before Disney World. Led Zeppelin, the Grateful Dead, and Frank Zappa all performed there. Ernest Hemingway survived multiple blast-type injuries in World War I and World War II, both plane crashes in Africa, a car accident during the Blitz in London, a skylight falling on his head in Paris, and a fall from a fishing boat in Cuba, accumulating 9 concussions in his life. This woman disguised herself as her sick brother to fight in World War I. She survived 9 wounds across 10 different battles and became the most decorated female soldier in history. She even survived a German concentration camp later, and when a German general recognized her legendary status, they ordered her immediate release. Barack Obama received a vote in the 2008 presidential election from someone who was born before Franz Ferdinand's assassinator. This is a group of samurais that are standing in front of a sphinx in Egypt in 1864. In World War I, the UK and the US both built ships out of concrete due to the steel shortages happening at the time, and some of them can still float today.
Childhood facts that you didn't know. In the TV show Thomas the Tank Engine, this chubby butler is actually a cruel dictator. He brainwashes the trains and forces them into slavery. And when the trains are no longer able to serve him or work for him, he just buries them alive in a tunnel. Like this.
Blood-curdling facts that will give you nightmares. Let's go. An octopus is flexible enough to enter your body through your mouth and come out through your butt. Most dentures in the 1800s were made from the teeth of dead soldiers. The most popular birth month among serial killers is November, and it's not even close. In the 1970s, a tooth somehow grew out of a young boy's foot. Some scientists say that if the universe is infinite, then there is a good chance that there's an exact clone of you somewhere out there.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew. Part 9. The slogan for Nike was inspired by the last words of a notorious killer who was about to be executed. Just do it. Former President Teddy Roosevelt had to watch his mother die due to typhoid fever and then immediately go upstairs and see his wife pass away due to complications during childbirth. Your physical brain smells sweet. The hair frog, also known as the Wolverine frog, will break its own bones and force them through its skin so it can have claws to fight off predators. In the 1960s, scientists attempted to teach dolphins English. However, the experiment soon ended because one of the scientists, Margaret Lovatt, started having sex with a dolphin named Peter, which she claims he initiated. Needless to say, the funding was cut for the experiment and Peter killed himself after Margaret left.
Blood-curdling facts you'll regret hearing about. When climbing Mount Everest, there is a point called Rainbow Valley. This is the last point that you have to climb. It might have a cool name, but it holds a sinister meaning. It is named after the colourful jackets of dead bodies that were not successful in the climb. In ancient Egypt, Egyptians would sometimes eat their food in the presence of mummies. The most common way female serial killers kill their victims is through poison. When a human being passes away, the last thing to go is their sense of hearing.
We have officially hit day 7 and even Ukraine is now getting involved. So here's everything you need to know. Firstly, 1 week in, both sides are refusing to back down. Trump said this morning there will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender, while Iran's foreign minister said
there is no request for a ceasefire by us and there is no request for the negotiation with the US from us.
This is all while the US and Israel have come out and said that they are moving into a new phase of their war. And residents in Iran say that last night's bombing was the worst night so far. In fact, Pete Hegseth just suggested the longest duration of the war so far, up to 8 weeks, doubling the initial 4. And that is going to get expensive, because according to a think tank based in Washington, D.C., the war is costing US taxpayers about $891 million per day. So if it does last that 8 weeks at the current cost rate, that's about $50 billion in 2 months. Also, in a surprising update, Zelensky confirmed last night that the US and other countries have asked Ukraine to get involved with helping counter Iranian drones. Zelensky accepted. Over in the UK, the Met Police arrested arrested 4 men in a counter-terrorism operation relating to Iran, and also updated their travel advice for Cyprus, warning that the risk of a terrorist attack cannot be ruled out. Speaking of which, Trump acknowledged for the first time that there is a possibility of retaliatory attacks on US soil. In an interview with Time magazine, he said, "I guess. We think about it all the time, we plan for it. Like I said, when you go to war, some people will die." He also told Axios in a separate interview that he needs to be personally involved in selecting Iran's next supreme leader. And finally, rounding it out with one of the craziest images taken by Reuters today, showing a commercial plane flying above missile strikes as they hit the ground. See you all tomorrow.
So there's a small population of tree climbing lions in Africa, and we don't know why they do this or when it even started. But we have theories. First of all, lions are cats, and cats can climb off principle. Problem is, they're not leopards. And being bulky enough to bring a buffalo to its knees means you probably have no business being in the trees. Especially since bigger lions, especially males, run the risk of falling out of the tree and dislocating something. That's a career-ending injury for a lion. But lions in Queen Elizabeth, Kazinga National Park in Uganda, have been seen defying convention and chilling in the trees. And it's like a cultural thing. Most lions only do it from time to time, but in this park, it's a pastime for the whole pride. Like to the point where you can look up and see entire families in the trees, and mind you, there's nowhere else in the world where you get this picture. And again, we have no idea why only these lions in particular do it. Some say it's to avoid the heat, others say branch camping helps them clock prey. But the theory I'm stamping is that the Ishasha lions do it to escape insects. You see, in 1963, a heavy rainstorm drove them up the trees, because that rain also brought a plague of insects that would open wounds and cause infections. So what I'm thinking is, those lions figured out they could reject the jihad of flies by learning how to climb, and then their cubs did it, then their cubs, and then well, isn't that how you end up with culture? Now the problem is that culture is dying, and it's estimated there's less than 40 tree-happy lions alive. A big problem is poaching. Alex Brashkowski's been studying them for like a decade, and in 2018, 11 of the lions he was studying were poisoned. 8 of them were cubs, and if you watched the previous video, that was Jacob's family. Now all my homies hate poaching, but hear me out. It's not always pure evil. Uganda's one of the poorest countries in the world, and farmers murking lions to protect livestock is slightly more understandable when most of the population makes less than $2 a day. So far, the best compromise is compensating them for livestock and lives lost to lions, without also past tensing the cats too. Either way, we're gonna have to lock in, because the thing with culture is, once they're gone, they're gone. The more you know.
Here are some crazy facts that will freak you out. Right, wait, you can pause the video if you want to, but do you recognise any of the items in this photo? Well, probably not, because this is what it looks like to have a stroke. In a stroke, everything does look quite familiar, but you cannot recognise one single object. Artist William Utemullen was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in 1995. And then over the coming 5 years, he drew these self-portraits of himself, and you can see the devastating effects of this disease. Flipper was a popular TV series in the 1960s featuring Kathy the dolphin. But a few years into the show, Kathy committed suicide by intentionally drowning herself. This picture on the right was taken just a few days after the one on the left. In 2008, this 23-year-old woman suffered a mysterious food allergy. This food allergy made her age 50 years in just a few days.
Anthony, did you know that you have nipples? Why would you have that? Those are for females to feed their young. It doesn't make sense. Males don't do that. It's because you guys evolved. That's proof right there of evolution in mammals. Also, another one, your seam, because you guys literally are a genetic mutation of females. The womb existed before the dick. The XX chromosomes existed before the Y. You can tell because the Y is just a shorter version. What are you talking about? Trying to like argue against evolution. Here's another one. If you bring your pinky to your thumb, you're probably going to have some sort of tendon poking out right there, or not. If you do, then you're not as evolved. But if you don't, you're more evolved than the rest of us because it's a useless tendon that we don't use anymore. So it's phasing out. Literally, another one, wisdom teeth. Our jaws are getting smaller. That is proof of evolution. What are we talking about trying to argue this right now? It's like trying to argue against the Big Bang when we know for a fact the universe is getting bigger and you can see the cosmic microwave background.
Boys, it's official. This major Iran leader just got taken out following the U.S. and Iran bombing. and it's causing major eruption. But I think there's a way I'm gonna make millions of dollars from this overnight. So right now, the official White House page changed their name to Golden Age of America. And it's rumored that Trump has been working on the Golden Dome of America. Do you see where I'm starting to connect everything here? Now apparently this is gonna be used to defend against aerial attacks from other countries. And it looks like they're starting to speed up this project because of what's going on right now. Now you remember that leaked transcript of them talking about tokenizing the dome on March 24th? And if you check the big guy's portfolio, he's one of the largest holders of this dome token. It even just got listed on Coinbase. Now hear me out, one of the largest crypto events this year is going on March 24th. And if the big guy announces this token there, this thing is gonna go crazy. If you wanna check it out, just search Golden Dome Reserve, make sure it's this contract address, and make sure not to buy any fakes. I'll pin the contract address as well. You can find it on the Phantom Wallet or just go on Coinbase. By the way, this is not financial advice, this is just what I'm buying. Always do your own research and let's see what happens.
You ever wonder why dogs' baby daddies are so terrified of their own children? Why some male dogs will chase anything but paternity? Normally you don't introduce a dog to his dependents for the first 4 to 6 weeks for safety. Mostly his, because mama dog will beat his. New mothers are hyper protective of pups and will square up on the baby daddy if he even looks at them the wrong way. Bro didn't even do anything. He sneezed, his son flopped for a foul call, and now he's up against the wall getting canine cursed out. And the fact that he was in the corner to begin with tells me this was not the first time. Basically, dog dads fear puppies the same way I'm afraid of bear cubs, because you know Big Mama ain't far behind. But also, a lot of dogs just don't have the hormonal drive to look after puppies, so they genuinely don't know what to do. If they could talk, it'd be that one Cat Williams line. If you know, you know. Not to mention, they can roughhouse and hurt the puppy completely by accident, so you don't really blame the mother for crashing out like that. But male wolves are S-tier fathers. African wild dogs literally let their children eat first. And honestly, without the male golden jackal carrying, the whole family would fold. The difference is, with domestication, humans took on the role of father. Most times, males aren't even around when the pups are born. So they'll see a puppy fresh out and feel indifferent, threatened, or a future beating from their baby mama. But like a deadbeat on draft day, eventually they switch up once the pups are weaned, and that's when they start showing up. In fact, the dog fathers are often the ones that teach them dog etiquette, like how to play and when they go too far. So not the best, but they eventually come around. Just wait a few weeks before you pup scare them.
This language sounds like English, but it's not English. So people online are just realizing that the language Dutch kind of sounds and looks like English, but it's just misspelled, and it kind of seems like English in beta mode. For instance, this photo has been going viral because in English it says that man is dead, but in Dutch, to us English speakers, it literally looks like it's saying dying man is dude. I mean, it sounds funny. Next, a lot of people are changing their phone's language to Dutch, literally just to have a laugh, and I got to admit, it's pretty funny. But my personal favorites have to be the telephone, which literally looks like it says telephone, the notes, which I don't really want to say on YouTube, and the calculator, which looks like it says wrecking machine in English. Finally, the last funny example I have is the translation of the man cut the pizza, because in Dutch, it literally looks like it's saying a fake version of English. And that's why English speakers find Dutch as the funniest language to read.
Ain't no way. People are trying to draft Baron Trump into World War III. A new hashtag is trending, calling for Trump to send his son to the front lines. And it's actually growing just beyond tweets. An entire website has been created. DraftBaronTrump.com was actually made by former South Park writer Toby Morton. And the header reads, "America is strong because its leaders are strong. President Trump proves that every day." Naturally, his son Baron is more than ready to defend the country his father so boldly commands. But fortunately for Baron, he's most likely ineligible to get drafted because the US Army actually has a maximum height requirement of 6'8". Anyone taller wouldn't be able to fit in military equipment like airplanes and tanks. And with Baron being 6'9", it looks like the Send Baron movement is doomed to fail.
This movie will make you lose sleep. The movie The Witch is terrifying, so let's explain it. Set in the 1630s, the story follows a deeply religious family exiled from their settlement who built a farm on the edge of a vast dark forest in colonial New England. At first, their struggles seem ordinary, failing crops, hunger, isolation, but small unsettling events begin stacking up. Livestock behave strangely, the baby disappears without explanation. The children whisper about something watching them from the woods, and suspicion quietly starts turning inward. As fear tightens its grip, faith begins to fracture. The family starts questioning each other, unsure whether evil is outside or already among them. The horror comes less from what you see and more from what you feel. Paranoia, guilt, and the creeping sense that something ancient is lurking just beyond the trees. It's tense, bleak, and deeply atmospheric. Way more unsettling than graphic. This is the kind of film that lingers long after it ends. If this sounds interesting to you, then go watch the movie The Witch now.
What is happening on March 13th? Well, let's talk about it. So I've been seeing tons of videos on social media lately of people freaking out about March 13th this year, and you're probably wondering, why March 13th? Well, if you remember, in 2020, March 13th was the day the world stopped, and widespread shutdowns started to happen on this day due to COVID. Well, it's been 6 years, and people are starting to freak out again. Well, it's because March 13th this year falls on a Friday, meaning it's going to be Friday the 13th, a super unlucky day. And the last time we had March fall on a Friday the 13th is back in 2020 when all of those shutdowns started to happen from COVID. And from this, people are now calling it the most unlucky day ever since March 13th in 2020. But guys, I wouldn't worry too much. I mean, nothing that bad could happen, right? I guess we'll find out.
A monkey got abandoned by his mother but adopted by the internet. Let me explain. Punch the monkey was born in July, and while he's not a cancer, his mother sure treated him like one, rejecting his presence and refusing to acknowledge him. Now, mothers abandoning babies is rare, but it does happen with extreme environmental stress and especially with first-time mothers. And being born to a first-timer during a bad heat wave meant Punch got wombo comboed right out the gate. But with his mom tapped out, that left a problem. Baby macaques don't just rely on their mothers for security, they literally build muscle by clinging onto her, so keepers rushed to find a replacement. The first substitute was a bunch of rolled up towels, but eventually someone handed him a stuffed orangutan from IKEA. That faux ape would become his whole world, especially with Punch running to it for comfort every time he'd get bullied. Which was a lot. Macaques have pretty strict hierarchies, and they enforce their place in it by bullying anyone under them. Fix your face, we're no better. Now, I've seen people saying to report the zoo for letting Punch get done like this, but it's honestly not that much worse than what you'd see in the wild. The difference is, newborn macaques often inherit their mother's rank in a group, and with no mom, yeah, that's tough. Also, there is a chance Punch not really getting to socialize means he hasn't really figured out the right subordinate or submissive response to a higher rank, which means he gets dealt slightly dirtier. But for everyone ready to die about this monkey, there's good news. At 7 months old, he's already started spending less time with the plush and more time with his own kind. Socializing, getting hugs, and especially grooming. That's a really big thing for creating social bonds. This is the one time you want to see him get groomed. Keepers also say Punch has gotten braver and much more confident about approaching other monkeys, and they seem to be coming around to him. And if they don't, IKEA donated 33 other O-rings, although I suspect IKEA did that more for IKEA. Basically, it's looking like things are going to be alright for Punch. I just hope y'all don't forget him like Pesto or Moo Dang. The more you know.
This supermarket was left behind and everything remained inside. Mexia Market is a 36,000 square foot grocery store located in Fort Worth, Texas. In 1999, the Mexia Market went bankrupt, and instead of removing the goods that were inside, the owners just took all of the money, fled the country, and left everything as it was. Food inside of the supermarket could have been put on a clearance sale or donated, but that was not the case, and it caused a serious biohazard. After a while, neighbors started reporting a horrible smell coming from the supermarket, and the city was called to the site. Once they went inside of the building, they saw so many flies and rats going around the whole area attacking the food, and if they were to demolish or burn down the supermarket, those animals/insects would go to nearby businesses and homes. High levels of toxic gases were escaping due to decaying materials inside. It got to the point where nearby residents couldn't even use their air conditioning because they were scared that those toxic chemicals were going to come inside of their home. The city ended up coming with a plan to fumigate it so that the pests inside would not survive. With knowing this, whoever was entering the building needed to take every precaution and wear the right kind of equipment so that they would not suffocate to death from the fumes. Once the cleanup was officially done, a lot of people were very angry that all that food was wasted and could have been donated to a local food bank for people in need.
Here's some interesting things I just learned today. Caesar salad was actually invented in a Tijuana restaurant during a 4th of July rush in 1924. A chef named Caesar Cardini improvised and created it. To be a commercial airline pilot or an air traffic controller, speaking English is a mandatory requirement. Apparently, long-term exposure to bodily waste, like taking care of a baby, significantly reduces the parents' disgust responses, and they just get used to it. I feel like that's actually really fair as someone with with 2 under 2. Neuroscientists are actually finding out now how meditation changes how fluid moves through your brain, and it becomes similar to the way that your brain works while you're sleeping. The Lakers and Celtics have won 45% of all NBA championships in the entire league. That's a little extra, but hey, I'm not complaining as a Lakers fan.
This man put his head into a deep fryer. In January 2026, at an Olive Garden restaurant in Pennsylvania, a male employee was reported to have deliberately immersed himself headfirst into a hot deep fryer. Inside the busy kitchen, the cook removed his clothing and plunged headfirst into a vat of hot deep frying oil. A horrifying act that unfolded in full view of coworkers who immediately tried to intervene. One female employee suffered minor burns while trying to stop him. Local emergency responders were called to the scene around mid-afternoon after several 911 calls described a burn victim in the kitchen area. However, despite efforts to save him, the cook later died from severe burn injuries sustained in the incident, and state police confirmed that out of respect for the individual and his family, they would not release his identity. The restaurant briefly closed in the aftermath before reopening, but for those who witnessed it, the moment remains an unsettling reminder of how fragile the line is between everyday life and sudden tragedy.
This young girl was chopped up and served as kebab meat. This is one of, if not the most disturbing story you will ever hear, and it's still one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in the UK. And this sounds like something out of a horror film. Too brutal to be true, but the legend of this has haunted the world for over 20 years. Take a trip back to 2003 in the seaside town of Blackpool. 14-year-old Charlene Downs vanished randomly. That night she kissed her mum goodbye, said I won't be out too late, and never returned, completely vanishing without a single trace. Of course, at first the police treated this as just any old runaway, like there are everywhere. They didn't take it too seriously, but as the weeks and then months went on, it got more serious. It was now becoming clear something very strange and much more sinister was going on. Still though, for 2 years there was not a single lead. They had no trace on where this girl went. But 2 years later, 2 kebab takeaway shop owners came forward. They were actually taken in, arrested and charged with the murder of this young girl. And here comes the even more disturbing part, allegedly unaliving her, chopping her up and turning her into kebab meat. Charlene became known as the Kebab Girl. As absolutely brutal and horrific that sounds, the story absolutely exploded across the UK and across the world. Now, the 2 men who were arrested, they stood trial, but the case collapsed and they actually walked free. They even received compensation for the court and everybody wasting their time and, and thinking they'd done something which they didn't. Now, the entire court case and arrest of these 2 men was reliant on audio recordings and other things that were found. The reason the case collapsed was because these weren't just found to be not usable, they were fraudulent, made by someone else. The whole story of the kebab was made up by who knows. Now, all this time later, in 2026, over 20 years later, she's still missing, people still don't know what happened, and there's a 6-figure reward if anybody has any information still. So was the kebab story secretly true, or was it a cover-up for something even worse that happened?
Someone turned a bird-watching simulator into a horror game, and it's absolutely terrifying. Let's talk about the twisted story of the horror game Birds Watching. In this game, a giant fire has destroyed all of modern civilization. You play as the last remaining human living atop a high mountain, all while the fires continuously rage below. All that's left is you and the birds. The birds mostly avoid you, but you do have one companion you've grown close to over the past 2 years. We have a bird watching guide, and we simply need to use our binoculars to zoom in on new species and identify them. So that's the gameplay, just watching birds? This seems like a completely normal bird watching simulator. Until all of a sudden your radio goes off and there's a human on the other end, and they tell us they want us to meet them at the old gate. All of a sudden, our bird companion starts speaking to us and tells us not to trust this person. What is happening? From that moment, we can start speaking to the birds we find using a special code word, and we get to decide whether or not we want to follow our bird companion or the man on the radio. It's an open world game, and the choice is ours. The game descends into a mix of mystery, body horror, and dread. I'm not going to spoil the rest of the story here. The twist involving the code word is insane, but I do have a full playthrough with all endings on my channel right now.
I have an insane theory that Shorty's gonna end up being Ghostface and revealing himself at some point in Scary Movie 6, all to mock the buildup of Stu Macher coming back to Scream 7. Because as we know, the Scary Movie franchise pretty much came up on parodying Scream. And I think one of the big reveals in this movie will be showcasing the fact that Shorty is now Ghostface, picking off all of our favorite characters one by one. And it's not going to be the real Shorty we know from the original Scary Movie. I heard a lot of you in my comments the other day saying that yes, it is Shorty. Marlon Wayans has confirmed that Shorty is coming back. And yes, technically Shorty is coming back, but it's it's not the Shorty we all know and love. It's yes going to obviously be the same character that Marlon Wayans has played for years, but the Shorty we know is dead. There is literally a shrine parodying Scream 5 of Randy. But in Scary Movie 6, it's a shrine of Shorty. Shorty's gone. And just because Marlon Wayans has confirmed that he is playing Shorty doesn't mean it's the real Shorty we know. We also got massive news of a test screening that happened for people that were able to see Scary Movie 6 early. And let's just say it's shaping up exactly how we knew, with them saying everyone was raving after seeing the movie. Tuesday was supposedly the best parody, which I think is a little bit shocking because it seemed like it was only like a little bit of a joke, with people saying the return of good comedy is back. Brenda and Sydney were amazing, which is obvious because they're literal focal points of the whole entire Scary Movie franchise, and they've always been funny, with them even stating that jokes went hard, but they wish they went a little bit harder. And as I've said in previous videos, I think this is going to be a top 3 movie of the year, no question.
So remember how Trump was gifted that insanely expensive private plane from Qatar, the country? It seems so random, but if we take a look back at the Epstein files based on what I found, it might not seem so random anymore. So clearly we want to stay on Qatar's good side, and that's because their country hosts a US military hub for the region. Qatar is also a channel state that the US uses to talk to and facilitate talks with bad actors. It's very close to Iran, and it's a strategic country, and also it's a gas superpower and a major US commercial partner. As you may remember, Qatar gifted Donald Trump this $400 million, quote, flying palace earlier last year, and we know why they did that. They wanted to buy some favor with the United States, cement our relations. They wanted to woo Donald Trump. And Trump seems to have been really into this, and there have been a lot of talks about Qatar. It's been in the news a lot lately. But we need to go back to this email exchange found in the Epstein files between Steve Bannon and Jeffrey Epstein. Steve Bannon is a top political strategist. He's a very famous individual on the right. He was the one producing the documentary about Epstein, and he's a super vocal Trump supporter. As you can see in this text chain, Epstein says, "You can explain to your boys that the linchpin in the Middle East is Qatar, blockade lifted, they can help on many fronts, many." And a linchpin is basically like a critical piece or a very important piece. He also talks about hatred towards Trump at the top. And as Bannon and Epstein continue in this conversation, they talk about other Middle Eastern leaders like MBZ and basically how they need to talk to these people and buy them off so that they can control them. There's a photo of Steve Bannon crying. Interestingly, Epstein invites Bannon to Paris with the main cast of characters. He later says if you Google the word idiot, a picture of Donald Trump comes up. And he says in Paris they will have Mr. Evil, Ehud, HBJ, etc. I don't know who Mr. Evil is, but I'm assuming Ehud is Ehud Barak, the former Prime Minister of Israel. And yeah, that's really about it for this convo, except at the end, Epstein says Trump Jr. says his dad is a re-gifter, and Epstein says I think he should have said re-grifter. But if you scan through the emails like I did, there are a ton of references to Qatar, and emails showing that Epstein took many trips there and talked to powerful politicians, including Sheikh Jabor Yusuf, who's a very powerful person in Qatar. This email is particularly telling though. And if you pause and read this, Epstein actually is going through step by step the things that Qatar as a country needs to do. He's giving advice seemingly directly to the top brass, the leaders in the country. And he even says the Indian Prime Minister Modi took advice and danced and sang in Israel for the benefit of the US president. It worked. Clearly Epstein wasn't involved in Qatar for no reason, and we can see now in this current administration that the bond between the US and Qatar is stronger than ever before. But I'm sure there's a much darker, deeper story hidden right beneath the surface.
This absolutely terrifying amusement park is 400 feet or 120 meters underground, and it's in a 2,000-year-old salt mine. Let's talk about it. Not to mention there's a massive lake down there that you can go on a little paddle boat in, and this is absolutely horrifying. It's called Salina Turda, and it's in Romania, and it is in a massive salt mine, so that's why it's called Salina, and then Turda is like the place where it is. You get to it by going down in this elevator. Well, there's multiple different layers of it, but this elevator takes you down to the lowermost level, where the water is. There's a whole bunch of activities. There's a Ferris wheel that looks straight out of hell. There's a bowling alley, and of course some mini golf. There's multiple different areas of this entire thing, but this is the creepiest part of it by far, and it's surrounded by this pitch black lake that is 2,000 years old. Keep in mind this is in Romania, and it's like right by Transylvania, so yeah, that water absolutely has vampires in it. Some kind of whale vampire, I swear. Whale vampire demons, that's for sure what's down there. Would you go out on this boat and go out in there? No. There's this demon porcupine statue sculpture thing. I don't know though, man. This massive, like, elevator that takes you down there and is, like, made of glass and you can see each level. Like, it's cool. I would go with people, but, like, to go alone would be so liminal spaces coded. To have this massive bridge that takes you over onto the water part. It's the water that scares me the very most of this place. And the massive, like, salt lick mine walls. There's something so creepy about this. They have concerts that take place down there, which could you imagine the acoustics down there? That would honestly be sick. Here's another photo of, like, the boat situation. I don't know though, man. Like, imagine you were, like, stuck down there and you couldn't leave, and then all the lights went out and you were just... I'm way overthinking this, aren't I? Would you visit this place? This massive animatronic head is in a bathroom, and it is triggered by the weight of you sitting on the toilet. And when you sit on the toilet, it slowly inches forward until it's kissing your knees. Let's talk about it, I guess. I'm going to show you a video of it moving at the end, and it is terrifying, and it sings a weird song, and I don't like it. Now, first off, I have a question of why this is only in the women's bathroom, but this is the urinal that's in the men's bathroom of the same bar. I'm kink shaming. It's at a bar called Seryuman in Shinjuku, Japan, and I have heard through the grapevine that this one in particular is closed now. So if that's true, this thing is sitting in the complete darkness, pretty much abandoned, and that's horrifying. My megalophobia could not sit in front of this or go anywhere near this, especially in such a tight, closed-in area. Also, like, the hand, it's like this, like its face is like this, and then with its hand, that is terrifying. What in the Attack on Titan is this? Watch this video and let me know what you're thinking. And how would you feel sitting on this toilet in front of this massive animatronic? Also, who's to say that it'll stop in time? Who's to say it won't crush your legs? This is just wrong on all sorts of reasons.
Right, this is the whole new concept of the toilet experience. You can't sit down under your things, and this guy is sitting right in front of you. So here we are, it's all going fantastically well, and then this music starts. And the thing just starts to move towards you. And it touches your knees.
Oh, come on, bro. You can so tell it's AI. Did this... Fuck?